Job interview conversation.
What does a typical day involve for a visual merchandiser?
A typical day for a visual merchandiser may involve meeting with store managers and discussing upcoming promotional events, visiting stores to assess displays and make recommendations, attending trade shows and planning new displays, creating floor plans and layouts, developing merchandise presentations, and training store employees on merchandising techniques.
What responsibilities do a visual merchandiser have?
A visual merchandiser is responsible for creating and maintaining an appealing and visually appealing store environment. This includes selecting and arranging merchandise in an attractive way, developing window and in-store displays, and creating signage and other marketing materials. A visual merchandiser must be able to understand the target market for a store and create displays that will appeal to that market. They must also be able to work within the budget set by the store owner or manager.
What skills are necessary to be a successful visual merchandiser?
Some essential skills for a successful visual merchandiser include an eye for detail. Visual merchandisers need to be able to spot even the smallest details in order to create an effective display. Creativity. Visual merchandisers need to be able to come up with creative and innovative ideas for displays. Organizational skills. Visual merchandisers need to be able to organize and plan their displays in an effective way. Communication skills. Visual merchandisers need to be able to communicate their ideas clearly to others in order to get their displays created correctly.
What makes a great visual display?
There are many factors that contribute to a great visual display. Firstly, the overall look and feel of the display should be pleasing and inviting to customers. The products should be arranged in an aesthetically pleasing way, and the colors should be coordinated in a way that is visually appealing. Secondly, the products should be clearly visible and easy to access for customers. The display should be well lit so that customers can see the products clearly, and the products should be arranged in a way that makes them easy to reach. Finally, the display should be well organized and tidy so that customers can find what they are looking for easily.
How do you go about creating a visual display?
There are a few steps that go into creating a visual display. First, you need to decide on the overall look and feel of the display. This includes choosing a color scheme, style, and theme. Once you have an idea of the overall aesthetic, you can start planning the layout of the display. This involves deciding where each element will go and how it will be arranged. Once the layout is complete, you can begin adding the finishing touches, such as lighting, props, and signage.
How do you know when a display is successful?
There are a few ways to tell if a display is successful. One way is to see if customers are engaging with the display. If they're stopping to look at it, or if they're picking up items from the display, then it's likely that the display is successful. Another way to tell is by looking at sales data. If sales of items in the vicinity of the display go up after the display is set up, then it's likely that the display had something to do with it. Finally, you can ask customers directly for feedback on the display.
What are some common mistakes made in visual merchandising?
Some common mistakes made in visual merchandising are not paying attention to the overall look of the store, not considering the customer's line of sight when arranging merchandise, not making use of all available space to showcase merchandise, not using proper lighting to highlight merchandise, not keeping the store clean and organized.
How can you avoid making those mistakes?
There are a few key things to keep in mind when setting up a display that will help avoid making common mistakes. First, it is important to consider the overall look you are trying to achieve and make sure that all of the elements of the display work together to create that look. Second, it is important to take into account the proportions of the items you are displaying and arrange them accordingly. Third, it is important to create a sense of balance in your display, using both horizontal and vertical elements as well as light and dark colors. Finally, it is important to edit your display so that it is not too cluttered or busy. By following these guidelines, you can avoid making common mistakes when creating visual displays.
How do you deal with difficult clients or situations?
I am a very patient person, so I usually try to understand where the other person is coming from and what their needs are. I then try to find a compromise that will work for both parties. If that doesn't work, I am not afraid to stand my ground and assert myself.
How do you stay creative and fresh in your approach to visual merchandising?
There are a few ways that I stay creative and fresh in my approach to visual merchandising. First, I make sure to keep up with the latest trends in fashion, design, and visual merchandising. I read magazines and blogs, and I also follow some of the top visual merchandisers on social media. This helps me to get new ideas and to see what other people are doing. Secondly, I experiment a lot. I like to try new things and see what works best for my store. I also talk to other store owners and ask for their advice. Finally, I always try to be flexible and adaptable. I know that the retail world is constantly changing, so I need to be able to change with it.
What trends are currently popular in visual merchandising?
Some popular trends in visual merchandising include minimalism, monochromatic displays, and geometric shapes.
How do you incorporate current trends into your displays?
There are a few ways that I like to incorporate current trends into my displays. First, I like to research what the current trends are in fashion, home decor, and other industries. Once I have a good understanding of what the trends are, I try to incorporate them into my displays in a way that is subtle but still noticeable. For example, if the current trend is for more minimalist designs, I might use clean lines and simple colors in my displays. If the current trend is for more bold and vibrant colors, I might use those colors in my displays to make them pop. Another way I like to incorporate current trends into my displays is by using seasonal items. For example, if it is currently summertime, I might use summer-themed items such as beach towels or sunglasses in my displays. This helps to keep my displays fresh and relevant to what is happening in the world around us. Finally, I also like to stay up to date on the latest products that are being released by the brands that I carry in my store. This way, I can ensure that my displays always feature the latest and greatest products that our customers will love.
What are some timeless tips for visual merchandising?
Some timeless tips for visual merchandising include: keep it simple. When it comes to visual merchandising, less is often more. Keep displays clean and uncluttered to allow shoppers to focus on the products on display. Use color wisely. Color can be a powerful tool in visual merchandising. Use it to create contrast and draw attention to key areas of your displays. Think outside the box, get creative with your displays and think outside the traditional, store window, mentality. Use unique props and interesting layouts to make your displays stand out from the rest. Pay attention to detail. The small details of your display can make a big impact. Make sure all elements are well coordinated and add finishing touches like signage and lighting to complete the look. Keep it fresh. Regularly update your displays to keep things looking fresh and new. This will help keep shoppers coming back for more.
How do you deal with budget constraints when creating displays?
There are a few ways to deal with budget constraints when creating displays. One way is to be creative with the materials you use. For example, you can use recycled materials or items that you already have on hand. Another way is to be efficient with your time and labor. This may mean planning your displays in advance so that you can execute them quickly and without any wasted effort. Finally, you can work with other businesses or individuals to barter goods or services in exchange for help with your display.
How do you think outside the box to create unique displays?
There are a few ways that I like to think outside the box to create unique displays. One way is to use unexpected materials to create the display. For example, using recycled materials or found objects can add an interesting element to the display. Another way is to play with scale and proportion. Creating a display that is either very large or very small can be eye-catching and memorable. Finally, I like to use light and shadow in unique ways to create an ethereal or otherworldly feel to the display.
How do you deal with competition from other businesses?
There are a few ways to deal with competition from other businesses. Find out what your competitors are doing and do it better. Offer something that your competitors don't. Be the low-cost leader. Differentiate yourself from your competitors.
How do you evaluate the success of your displays?
There are a few ways to evaluate the success of displays. One way is to track sales data before and after the display was put up. This can give you a good idea of whether or not the display had an impact on sales. Another way to evaluate the success of displays is to ask customers what they think of the display. This can be done through surveys or simply by asking customers directly. Finally, you can also take photos of the display and compare them to similar displays in other stores to see how your store stacks up.
What are your long-term goals for your career as a visual merchandiser?
My long-term goals for my career as a visual merchandiser are to continue to develop my skills in creating visually appealing and effective displays that capture the attention of customers and drive sales. I also want to continue to stay up to date on current trends in retail display and merchandising so that I can create cutting-edge displays that will help my employer stay ahead of the competition. In addition, I hope to eventually become a store or regional manager so that I can have a larger impact on the overall success of the company.